he will spot it. Not only will he spot it, he will magnify it. So this is Prahlad. And Srila Prabhupada is saying, Mahajano yena gadasapanta. Very, very powerful what Srila Prabhupada is saying. A pure Vaishnav actually thinks of himself in this way. Lower than worms and stool, and more fallen than Jagai and Madhai. More sinful than Jagai and Madhai. How many of us can actually think like that? That we're actually more sinful than Jagai and Madhai? It seems unrealistic. They're drinking, we don't drink. They're killing, we're nonviolent. They're stealing, we're doing selfless service. Just giving everything. How can we think we're more sinful than Jagai and Madhai? It is Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vigyena Bhujai. It is the quality of a pure soul. And Srila Prabhupada says similarly, although Prahlad Maharaj was a pure, exalted Vaishnav, who at this very time when he's speaking, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Indra, Vayu, Chandra, Narada Muni, all the great sages, they're honoring him. He thought himself most unqualified to offer prayers to the Lord. Mahajano yena gatasapanta. Every pure Vaishnav should think like this. It is not that we should rationalize that this happened in Satya Yuga. And now it's Kali Yuga. Nobody could think like this. Or this is Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the Paramhamsa Samhita. This is the greatest Vaishnavas that everybody's supposed to read about and talk about. But that has nothing to do with me. But I'm sorry, especially for me and anyone else who this applies to. Srila Prabhupada is smashing our misconception in this one line. He's pulling, as they say, the rug right out from under us. We have no grounds to stand on that argument. Prabhupada says, every pure Vaishnav should think like this. In all times, in all places, in all circumstances. One should not be falsely proud of his Vaishnav qualifications. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore instructed, Trinadapi sunichena taror ibasi hishnuna, amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. When we chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we are invoking the presence of the Lord. This Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the Lord Himself, who is manifesting with His Swarup Shakti, Srimati Radharani. Hare is Radha's name. Krishna and Ram is Krishna, the Lord of the Lord of all that exists. This Mahamantra is so great. It is Shaktiman and Shakti, the Lord and His internal spiritual potency manifesting in sound vibration. And the power of that Bhakti Shakti that is within this mantra, when it is chanted in a way that will please the Lord, bathes our hearts and awakens that Bhakti Shakti of the Swarup Shakti of the Lord, Srimati Radharani. When she comes along with Krishna into our heart, it just saturates our heart with her Bhakti and awakens our own love of God. But Radha Gopinath, they are independent. Yeyatam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. They will reveal themselves and they will work in their names according to our desire, according to our consciousness. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was here telling us, this is the state of mind we must practice throughout our day and throughout our lives, so that Krishna will reveal his full potency to awaken our dormant love of God in his names. Srila Prabhupada ends his purport, unless one is meek and humble, to make progress in spiritual life is very difficult. Hare Krishna. So if we're having difficulty, this may be the reason. We're not really meek and humble. Now, there are so many arguments against being meek and humble. Because living in this age of Kali, where people are so competitive, and there are so many duties one must perform, whether one is working his or her occupational duties, or just dealing with society, what to speak of living in the Hare Krishna movement, where you have to deal with all kinds of oppositions, within and without. And people oftentimes want to show how powerful and fearsome they are so that people just won't bother them, so that people won't abuse them, misuse them, exploit them. Yes, because this is an age where there is so much exploitation. And you have to really show your power and your strength and your ability to conquer, so that people will not try to exploit you. Yes? Even in the brahmachari ashram, this mentality could be there. And there may be some good reason for it. But the problem is, unless one is meek and humble, to make progress in spiritual life is very difficult. And when Srila Prabhupada uses the word very, it's very. It's very, very, very. Philosophically, why is it very difficult to make spiritual progress unless one is meek and humble? Because you're on your own. If you have false pride, you are on your own against Maya. That's very difficult. But if you're meek and humble, you're actually putting yourself under the shelter of the all-powerful Krishna. Daiviyeshu gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mame vamye prapadyante maya meta tarantite. Material nature is very difficult to overcome. And Krishna also says very difficult. It's the same thing. When Krishna says material nature is very difficult to overcome, if you're not meek and humble, then it is very difficult to overcome material nature. But one who takes shelter of the Lord can easily cross beyond it. Isn't that the words in the Gita? Can easily cross beyond it. So difficult and easy is all dependent on being meek and humble. When you're meek and humble, you can actually, Krishna, I'm yours. Krishna, I'm depending on you. Now, we may have to sometimes show prowess for the purpose of protecting our mission. Srila Prabhupada, he was very powerful when he preached sometimes. Not only sometimes, often. Sometimes when he spoke against sense gratification, Mayavad philosophy, Sahajism, sinful activities, I mean, there were daggers and swords and fires and nuclear bombs coming out of his mouth. Very powerful. But he was doing that not with any false pride that I'm better than you. He was simply an instrument of Krishna, doing it for our sake, for the welfare. As a humble servant, he was trying to destroy the illusion within our own minds. Srila Prabhupada, just a few days ago, I visited His Holiness Mahanidhi Swami at Sri Radha Kund, Damodar Prabhu's beloved spiritual master. And we were talking, and he quoted Srila Prabhupada. He said, Srila Prabhupada said that a Vaishnava preacher should have the courage and the strength of a commander in the British Armed Forces and the heart of a Bengali mother. And he said, many devotees have focused very nicely on cultivating the first part. But they didn't hear the second part. At least. And the second part is all important. Yes, we should have the courage to be bold for preaching. But it must be with no ego. It must be in a spirit of compassion. It's not that it's, as they say, you put on different hats. It's not that you go into your British commando officer mode and then you go home and you become a Bengali mother. No, the Bengali heart of mother is always there, even when you're fighting against Maya. You're doing it with compassion. So what we find in Sri Prahlad Maharaj's verse today and Srila Prabhupada's purport is there is no way around it. There's no excuses, there's no justifications, there's no way around it. It may seem to our mundane conceptions it's totally impractical to be meek and humble. We'll be trampled on, we'll be abused, we'll be taken for granted. We may lose everything. So many excuses, but you can't get around it. You have to do it if you want to make proper spiritual progress. Because if you don't do it, you're on your own. It's you against Maya. It's like you're Prahlad against Hiranyakashipu, but you're not a devotee. That is your chances. You're a little 5-year-old boy with skinny little arms and little legs, and you're not a devotee. You're on your own against Hiranyakashipu. That's what Prabhupada means when he says, very difficult. Because if we're trying to make spiritual progress, we are fighting against Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu is just a manifestation of Maya, material energy, trying to exploit. Yes? Where does Hiranyakashipu get all his powers from? Prahlad said from Krishna, but not directly from Krishna. He's getting his powers through Krishna's material energy. The three modes of material nature are working under Krishna's supervision. He's getting all his powers from the modes of passion and ignorance. Yes? So Hiranyakashipu is just a manifestation of material energy strength to try to destroy us. If you're proud, you're Prahlad, fighting Hiranyakashipu without Krishna on your side. That is very difficult. Or, if we want to be honest, it's impossible. But if we're meek and humble, then we understand Krishna's the doer. And we do what Krishna wants us to do. Then we can take shelter of Krishna. And in taking of shelter of Krishna, Krishna promises, Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashiti. I will be there behind you to protect you. And then we're Bhakta Prahlads with Lord Narasimhadev, watching over us 24 hours a day to protect us, to lift us. Now, from a spiritual perspective, that is very practical. It's totally impractical to be proud. Although materialistic people and materialistic conceptions of devotees may say it's impractical to be meek and humble. But these are all superficial, external concerns. It's like Prahlad saying it's impractical for me to take shelter of the Lord in this situation. I have to fend for myself. If I'm being thrown in fire, I need a bunch of water with me. It's not practical to go without water. Huh? If I'm being thrown off a cliff, I need my parachute. It's not practical to get thrown off a mountain without a parachute. If I'm getting thrown underwater, I need my scuba diving equipment. So yes, it's practical. But it's impractical. Because a devotee understands that when you're fighting Hiranyakashipu, your water parachute equipment or scuba diving equipment is not going to save you. It may appear that it's postponing your destiny for a little time. The only practical thing is to surrender to Krishna. And you cannot surrender to Krishna if you have false pride. You must be meek and humble. You can be bold. You can protect that which needs to be protected, but never think yourself to be the doer. Always know that Krishna is the Lord of our lords, and we are completely dependent on Him. Symptom of surrender is to exclusively depend on the mercy of Krishna. That is the glory of Prahlad. So he is offering this verse that we're reading today from his heart of hearts. And because he's revealing his consciousness, everything he's about to speak, Lord Narasimhadev is going to hear with very, very deep satisfaction. Prahlad is asking a question. How is it possible for me, who have been born in a family of asuras, to offer suitable prayers to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Now, some devotees could take a Sanskrit class and start reciting beautiful prayers, thinking, the Lord is pleased. Haribo. Or even if we don't know Sanskrit, we can memorize the Sanskrit transliterations and everything and offer prayers. And think, just see, my Lord, Gopinath, see, I'm offering nice prayers to you. Just see my qualification. I'm chanting 16 rounds, I'm following a four-argument principle, I've studied all these scriptures for so many years. But Prahlad, how is it possible for me, who have been born in a family of asuras, to offer suitable prayers to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Even until now, all the demigods headed by Lord Brahma and all the saintly persons could not satisfy the Lord by streams of excellent words. In the previous chapter, Brahma, Shiva, the demigods, they're offering eloquent prayers in spotless Sanskrit, with such deep philosophical purport. And none of them could satisfy the Lord. And not only the demigods, but all the saintly persons could not satisfy the Lord. Although such persons are very qualified, being in the mode of goodness, then what is to be said of me? I am not at all qualified. This is what we want. If we're sincere devotees, this is our aim in life. You may want to be a gopi and help the manjaris to assist the sakis in making tasteful arrangements for Radha and Krishna. That's what Rupa Goswami wants to bring us to do. But if we want to actually attain that state, we have to Mahajano Yena Gatasa Panta. We have to follow in the footsteps of the Mahajans. That is preliminary. Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, when they first approached the Lord, they were just like Prahlad. Read the prayers of the first words that Rupa and Sanatan spoke to Lord Chaitanya. They are identical in spirit to the first words that Prahlad speaks to Lord Narasimhadev. They're totally humbling themselves beyond human comprehension. They're also saying, we're demons. We're most unqualified. We're the most sinful. We're the most fallen. We have no qualifications whatsoever. We're only crying out for your mercy. This is reality. If you want to be making garlands with them for Radha and Krishna in Goloka, first you have to become like them. You have to become like Prahlad. Then Radharani and Krishna pick you up. They pick you up with great satisfaction as you chant their holy names. There was a nice echo during that mantra. Haridas Thakur said when there's echoes of the chanting of the holy name, that is the non-moving objects chanting in response to the devotees. Haribol. So some of you are categorized as non-moving objects. Now this verse that you may think this was the type of verse that I would select. How many of you think like that? Because sometimes we speak on this subject, but it had nothing to do with me. Haribo. This morning during Japa, Govinda Prabhu said, we're going to have you speak on this verse today. And I actually tried to be meek and humble toward Govinda Prabhu. But Govinda Prabhu is a very, very genuinely sincere Vaishnava. We all know that. And it is very appropriate that we begin our Narsingha Dev festival of approaching Lord Narsingha Dev with the first prayers that teach us how to approach Lord Narsingha Dev. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.